about the ecological framework. So there is a huge, okay, let me first give you this fact that there are 125 countries that have laws against domestic violence, but only 52 countries criminalize domestic violence and marital rape. And India is not one of those countries which criminalizes marital rape. So India is amongst those 52 and in the top 5, and almost in the top 2 in case of coronavirus cases. India does lead somewhere. I mean, yeah. Population, lies, fake media. Oh, India does lead everywhere, I must say. So I was talking about the ecological framework, and I must say that there is a huge gap. There is a huge gap in, you know, the whole system. There are huge loopholes, basically. One, from reporting of a crime. Very few women report a crime which has happened to them, whether it's violence or sexual in nature. Very few women report it because they are unaware, first of all, of their own rights. Secondly, they are afraid of the legal system. They are afraid of their family. They are afraid of their community. They're afraid for their own honor. They're afraid for their family's honor. So many reasons. So there is a gap at the rate which the crimes happen, and there is a gap at the rate at which it is reported. And that is why I use the word reported every time I say, because we don't know the true numbers. We really do not know the true numbers, because only we know what has been reported and written down by the law. So after reporting, there is a gap between writing down the report, filing the report, and suspect identification. Basically, so if a woman went ahead and she was raped and she filed an FIR, so I'll tell you the procedure, how the whole rape scenario, like how a woman should be reporting and all of that after this. So after you report, file an FIR, there is a gap at which the suspect is identified. The suspects may never be identified because oftentimes, like we have seen, suspects may be of upper class, suspects may be wealthier, suspects may be politicians, suspects may be more powerful, more wealthy, more, I don't know, have more connections. And there goes, we lost some perpetrators there, because even if she went ahead despite her fears and she did report the crime, we lost the perpetrators, because the perpetrators are oftentimes more powerful and they have a good relationship with the police, and they are not, even if they're identified, they will not be identified. So there we lose them. So if the suspect is identified, there is another stage where the suspect, the accused, is interviewed. So during interviews, we know that our justice system is not the best. You know, there is a huge liberty that's given to men as opposed to women, and we have heard of cases where, you know, statements like the man was under alcohol, the influence of alcohol, or he was enraged, or he was angry, and so and such and such. The incident happened, and so the interviews aren't really very useful unless they are, you know, interviewed by really honest and law-abiding officers, which we seriously lack in this country too. So there is another gap. So we lost suspect identified, but we lost him at the interview phase. So from the interview phase, if the suspect still remained through the interview phase, comes the phase where the suspect may be charged. So while charging, the evidence and the circumstance and everything is taken into, consideration, and sometimes the woman loses her case right there, because maybe the evidence was not documented properly, there's not enough evidence, and no proper documentation of the report, of what she filed, what her story was, what she narrated, no proper collection of evidence, whether forensic or otherwise. So we lose perpetrators even at that stage. So then comes the trial, where each one goes to court, brings their own lawyers, and they fight the case, and that is another phase where women lose so many cases, because oftentimes women are less powerful economically, financially, compared to men, to get a good enough lawyer to fight her case and get her to win. So there we lose some more perpetrators, some more criminals, basically. So till the time of from the crime happening, the act taking place, to the time of conviction, is a huge gap. There is a huge gap of time, basically, from point 1 to point X, basically. And conviction, even after conviction, whatever the sentence, excuse me, that is passed, sorry, getting a dry throat, the sentence that is passed, there will be appeals and reappeals and appeals and appeals, which we saw in the Nirbhaya case from 2012 in Delhi, that the justice took 8 years, more than 8 years, to be given. So those men, I do not really support the death sentence. I don't know how effective it is, because I just feel, but in a country like India too, you don't even have a very good legal system of justice and criminalization. So I don't know, I'm very ambivalent towards whether it should be a life sentence or a death sentence, but whatever the sentence is, it takes a long, long time for that sentence to be, given to the criminal, and the woman, till then, or her family, if the woman is dead, the family goes through a grueling process among those years. They might even be threatened to be killed, their family is threatened. We saw in that case where the politician was involved, forgetting the name, where the woman's family were tried to be killed, and some of them were killed in car accidents, paid car accidents, and all of that. So there was a politician. Well, I know you're getting it, which one I'm talking about, but I'm not remembering right at the moment. And even now, if you look at the Hathras case, the legal system there in Uttar Pradesh and Hathras are coercing the family to take back their FIR, basically, change the statement. So all of this happens. There are threats to their life, there are threats to so many things, that eventually justice might not at all happen. So that is why I use the word reported, like I'm repeating the same thing again, because there is a huge gap amongst the numbers of cases that actually happen and cases that get reported. So per day, or was it per hour? I'm forgetting, sorry. 85 women are raped. I think it's per hour. Yeah, please look that up. I mean, sorry. But yeah, that's a huge number which is reported, and we know it because it was reported. We do not know the ones that are happening quietly behind doors in the bedrooms, or God knows where, inside the houses, in the four walls, in the community where everybody keeps shut. Everybody knows, but they keep quiet. There are so many cases. So when I talk about this topic, I just feel like I could go on forever. But yes, time does have a limit, so I should move on to, yeah, I was about to talk to you about the rape incident. If it happens to anyone, any woman, we know as women how that would hurt us, not just physically, but mentally. Yeah? So if one rape happens to you, it is just not one rape. Because you know what? You have to relive it over and over and over again through the process of getting to the point of justice. That is like being raped over and over and over again, because you are continuously narrating and reliving that incident just to attain justice. So there's a very good Netflix series called Unbelievable. Please do go watch it. It is about raped woman in US, but yeah, it's very important that you should watch it to understand the psychology of women, what they go through when they're raped. And so what happens to a raped woman? Basically, she's injured, she's in pain, she's not being able to judge correctly. Like I said, I was not raped, but I was almost. I would have been had I not been in a train full of people. If that guy would have cornered me somewhere. Yeah. So they are not at their best states of judgment, mental judgments. So they would want to go to a hospital first because of the pain and the trauma, to seek care, because that is the first thing we think of when we get injured, when we get hurt. We think of going to either our mothers or the hospital, to the doctor. But the hospitals do not prefer that the woman first goes to a police station and gets an FIR done, and then come to the hospital along with a personnel from the police station accompanying her. So first she'll have to go to the police station, where she will be narrating the incident to maybe a lady police officer at first, and then a male police officer who's senior at a later stage, and somebody else at a later stage. So 3-4 times she has already narrated that whole incident. She will be questioned repeatedly over and over. And imagine in that mental state, she has to do all of that to seek justice. You know how painful even justice is, the process of justice is. So she does that in there. She goes through the rape again and again in her head, and then she goes to the hospital with the officers from the police station. They take her there, the doctors, the nurses, they will, the forensic examiner, they will again and again, the sample collector, they will again and again, ask her the same questions, the same story. And later, while examining, she will be asked to drop off her clothes, her undergarments, be absolutely naked. Again, maybe they'll give her a hospital gown, which doesn't cover much. She again is at that stage of vulnerability in her mind once more. So they will come through her whole body, look for injuries which look like sexual injuries, whether they look like sexual injuries or not. They will be questioning that, they will be judging that, or anything. They will be taking samples from her nails, because like women do try to use nails to protect themselves against the perpetrator, because we do not have the muscular strength in our arms to push a man off of us completely so easily. So we use nails, scratch, whatever, bite. So mouth swabs, vaginal swabs, swabs of the whole genital area, hair samples, all of it. Her whole body again feels violated basically, but that is the process of collecting samples and they have to go through it. Even though, it's a painful process in the mind, and I really pray that women don't have to go through this. God. And while she's doing all of that and narrating a story and all of that, in a country like ours, like in India, she will be, her moral judgment, her moral character will be judged basically. She will be asked, why were you at that time, at that time, in that darkness, wearing that, alone, or with that person, or with whoever? Why were you there? What were you doing there? You're a girl, you should not be going alone, what, blah blah blah. You know the questions, the moral questions raised at us. But honestly, I'm telling you, it makes no difference what a woman is wearing or where she is, and that I have proved the point to you initially in my story, where I was sexually abused. I almost got raped. I can say that, in a train full of people, not just people, NCC cadets. I was an NCC cadet in my uniform. It does not matter what you're wearing. You could be raped in a burqa, you could be raped in a bikini, or you could be raped if you're wearing sari, or whatever the hell you wear doesn't make a difference basically. So that point is to be addressed and to be spoken about, that a woman's sense of dressing should not be the questioning point in a case of gender-based violence or sexual abuse against a woman. So it reminds me again that during the Nirbhaya case happening, no matter how gruesome it was, how horrible the details were, there were still people, and in fact still, MLAs and politicians who questioned, people of power who questioned her decision of stepping out in the evening with a male friend to watch a movie. Her decision to take a bus, a public transport system, at night with a male friend. Whatever it is. What right do you have to question? What could be so wrong that she had done by going to watch a movie, an evening show or a late night show, whatever the hell it is? What could be so wrong that she deserves to be treated that way, to be raped that way, to be mutilated that way? Okay, so let's talk about a little bit more about gender-based violence. The most common form, like I was saying, is intimate partner violence, after which is non-partner violence. The second most percentage is the non-partner violence, which is perpetrated by strangers or people you don't really know well or know very from far away or whatever, or strangers, absolutely. Then comes female genital mutilation, FGM. I am not sure if you're aware of female genital mutilation. Yes, that too does happen, It mostly happens in the African countries like Sudan and the sub-Saharan area, but in India also there are certain communities like the Dawoodi Bohra community which does practice female genital mutilation, which is another tactic formulated by the society to control the liberty of a woman, basically, so that she does not enjoy sexual liberation. In a way, she does not run off with another man or fall in love or enjoy sex or any of those things. I mean, so that the woman is just a vessel, a body, which the man will impregnate later on to just produce children. I have read cases where these practices, since they are not legal, I mean, they cannot get it done through hospitals and all of that because it's a crime. And Sudan did pass a law finally in April 2020 for criminalizing FGM, female genital mutilation. And I have read cases where these are done by quacks or by within the family itself, with no procedures of sterility, of taking care of infections or anything, and they often damage the woman's genital system in such a way that she is damaged for life. Basically, she is damaged for life, that every time she goes to even urinate, which is a daily process of God knows how many times, she goes through pain, she goes through infection, goes through fever, life-threatening diseases, because you're just cutting her with a blade or a knife, which you have probably not even cleaned properly, cutting off her clitoris, labia. I mean, that's like chopping a dick off in half. Excuse my French here, but yes, it is that traumatizing. So yeah, all of these things happen to a woman, and it's just painful to go on counting the ways and numbers in which women are violated and, you know, victimized and preyed upon by men. Finally, let's just talk about what can we do, honestly. What can we really do? Because this is an issue which is so deep rooted in our society at the societal level, and we need to do something from the ground up, basically, to be able to break this whole cycle of patriarchy of society, which has been built up mostly by men. So what can we really do? First thing, now, since we are in a different millennia altogether, we are in the 2020s, we have enough access to social media to voice our opinions, to write down our opinions, to make videos, to reach out. First thing that we can do is raise awareness amongst us. And that is the sole purpose of my video, to raise awareness as much as I can about what's happening to women. The rest comes later. But first, we need to be able to talk about these issues. We need to be able to discuss these issues unashamedly, discuss our incidents that have happened with us as women and men even, and discuss what has happened in our families without shame. We should be able to talk about it. We should be able to spread the word, keep the fucking fire going. Even if the fire is not there, keep the coals burning. At least we can be outraged. That's the least we can do. We can talk about it. We can spread the message. We can discuss about it. That is the first thing towards change. Change starts from talking and discussing. And that is where we can start, probably. The second thing we can do, excuse the disturbance if you can hear it. So the second thing which we can do is choose our representatives, our leaders, carefully. not just based on their pre-election speeches, but based on their character judgments. Look at their whole character. Look at the person that you're going to elect, not his words. Words like this could be written and they could just read out. And that is exactly what has happened to us in 2014. I'm not wrong. Sorry for the disturbance. I mean, there are people who live in my building and they're not always very quiet sometimes. So yes, choose our leaders very responsibly. We should not lament anymore saying, oh, what can we do? The country is already like this, the people are already like this, our leaders are already like this, and we have nothing that we can do. No, that's not true. We have strength in numbers. We have strength in unity. If a huge number of people like us come together and start talking about an issue over and over and over again, that the government, the voice becomes so loud and deafening to the government that they are forced to listen to us, that they are forced to pay attention to us. That is how we can bring about change. Our leaders, by forcing our leaders, because we elected them. They have a responsibility towards us. We do not have a responsibility towards the leaders that we selected and elected to power based on which they are sitting in powerful positions and earning money, huge amounts of money, so it's their responsibility to listen to us. You have to be aware of that we as the people are the biggest strength in this country. We speak up, we talk about issues, we raise a movement, we continue the movement, then that is the movement which will take us forward and bring change, force our leaders to change. Elect leaders responsibility. Don't elect leaders based on the kind of foolish promises that they make just before elections, because elections are the time when they are desperate and they will promise you anything and everything, which we have very well seen that do not come to fruit eventually. So what else can we do? We can make an enabling environment for these survivors of these acts, for the victims. So here I would like to talk about something scientific. It is called like I said, that there are many organizations like Rahi, Swayam, Parivartan and Sakhi and all of that, which are really doing great work. On top of that, to support women victims and giving them economical support, financial support, that's the same thing, but giving them emotional support and a safe environment, a shelter, all of that, but apart from that, what I would like to talk about is something called the trans-theoretical model, which was created by Prochaska and D. Clementine in the 1980s for smokers, basically. Okay, so there are different stages a victim of sexual violence, especially a victim of intimate partner violence, a woman who is in a sexually or physically abusive relationship is in, that a woman goes through, and those stages are very similar to the stages that a smoker goes through, to the point of quitting or relapsing back into smoking. So the different stages are awareness. First of all, what we need to do is get these women who are in such relationships, in such marriages, to become aware of their rights, of understanding what a crime is, making them able to see a crime for a crime. Like I said initially in this video, that there is data, proven data, that most there's a huge percentage of Indian women who believe that their husbands have a right to violate them just because they are married to them. So we need to bring them to their senses basically first, because this is because of unawareness. They're not aware, they were not taught. We as women, or even as boys, we were hardly given any sex education classes, first of all, in our schools. I don't know if that happens now. I haven't been to school lately. So so forget about woman empowerment and gender equality classes, which I don't think yet happens. So we are sent out into the world to face the world, absolutely unknowing of what is out there. So these women need to understand that there's something called human rights, there's something called women's rights, there are something called laws for your protection, there's a legal system that you can access through proper channels, that there are support groups that you can seek help with. There are groups of women even in your community. There are people who you can talk to and seek help from, and basically you don't have to suffer alone. We have to bring them to that stage, because these women are absolutely isolated in their homes, going through the daily rigor of whatever they're going through, whatever form of violence that is, sexual, physical, mental, whichever it is. They should first become aware that what is a crime, that this what is happening to them is wrong, that they do not deserve, even as women or as human beings, to go through what they're going through. They should understand that what is going through they're going through is a crime, first of all, in the first place, and they should understand and be made aware that there are ways to seek help, to seek justice. So from that stage of awareness, they come to the pre-contemplation stage. The pre-contemplation stage is where the woman is aware already of that this is wrong, and now I need to think, basically weigh out the, what should I do? Would I like to do this? Would I like to, get out of this? Can I get out of this? Are there ways to get out of this? Where she starts thinking slowly, basically. That is the pre-contemplation stage, where she considers the possibility of freedom and liberty and safety. And then comes the stage of contemplation, where she basically, sorry, uncomfortable sitting for so long. So where she, the contemplation stage, where she basically weighs out the pros and cons of what that decision, taking that decision could result in. Pros such as she could, be more liberated. She could have a freer lifestyle. She could probably have more friends. She would be able to live her life her own way, or she could have safety, or she could have safety for her children, or whatever it is, whatever the pros are and whatever the cons are. That cons could be that society could shame her for leaving her husband or that relationship. It could be a shame for the honor of this family. It could be financial problems. I'm sure they go into financial problems either way. I mean, the woman, if she's subjected to violence, she's already, I know, not financially liberated anyway. So yes, that could be also an issue. She basically weighs out and thinks, and then comes the phase of thinking and preparing, making an action plan of how to execute the whole process of getting justice, or becoming free, or achieving safety and liberty. So that is the point where, that is the process that we need to bring them to. Support organizations and groups need to bring them to enable them, just enable them to think on their own, to be able to plant the seeds. Like in the movie Inception, it was said that a dream, just planting the idea is big enough to revolutionize things. I mean, I've forgotten the exact dialogue, but yeah. So planting the dream of freedom, the planting the seed of the idea, basically. So comes the phase of stage. Bring them to the phase of stage where you help them to give them medical aid, or give them financial aid, or give them legal aid, or aid them, give them resources to be able to execute the plan which they have come up with at their own comfort, with counselors and all of them, with a team they've discussed, and so that they can execute the plan. And then comes, after executing the plan, then comes the phase of maintenance. So in most cases, what happens is a woman, if she's beaten and harassed or sexually abused and all of that, she sometimes, even if she leaves the house of the husband and she gets free of that marriage or whatever she sought divorce or anything of that sort, the family can persuade her to go back into the same system. Or she herself might feel like going back to that system because of many things, because of family honor, because of the sake of the children, because of whatever the reasons could be, n number. So there is a maintenance phase, whether she could maintain and stay in that phase of liberty, or she relapsed into going back to that same cycle, or she achieved the goal of freedom, and she was a victim, a survivor, and then a winner. Was she a winner, or did she again become a victim? So this is a model which is very intensively now used globally to help survivors and victims of sexual abuse and domestic abuse and physical abuse of any sort, mostly females and even males. So these organizations are using the Prochaska Declementine trans-theoretical model, and it is said to be quite an effective model to help these survivors and these victims, because to be victimized, it is not about just the physical act, it is also about the mental trauma that you go through. So most of it, apart after your body heals, you still carry the mental trauma. Like I still do from that night 10 years ago. I still carry the trauma. I still remember that person, the smell of that person, the taste of his saliva, how dirty it felt, how violated I felt, his hands on my body. I still remember. The brain does not forget. I mean, my body might have forgotten that, but my brain will not forget that. So it's so psychological that we have to look at it not just from a point of view of just justice, or giving justice, or giving medical aid, or healing a person, treating a person. It's also so much about the psychology of the person which needs to be helped. And these are the phases which you can take a woman through and actually help her. For women, what else can we do? There was a case study from Democratic Republic of Congo, which was a livestock microfinancing intervention, and the project was called Pigs for Peace. It's a very nice name, but the goal of the project was to financially strengthen the woman, liberate the woman by so I'll describe the model of the whole project to you. The project was such that they give one sow, a female of the pig, an pregnant female pig, to a woman, and pigs generally give birth in huge numbers. It could go up to up to 15 numbers of piglets even. So what the project says, that you give us 2 piglets back, and you do whatever you need to further your financial system, or whether you sell the piglets, or whether you raise the piglets to further your piggery farm, or do whatever. So it is just by giving one animal, they helped women to become more financially independent, eventually by which they are also mentally more liberated and powerful in the societies. So that is a very good example where you can keep the woman engaged, where they feel that they are not absolutely useless or helpless. They feel that they are doing something in life. At the same time, they're also growing and earning and sustaining themselves and basically feeling good and productive. So that is a very good model, which could, I don't know if any such model exists in India. I mean, I agree that pigs might not be the best example, but there could be other models, other things that we could use, or other animals that we can use to bring about similar projects and changes in the system. So if we talk about men, it starts from home. It starts from childhood. You have to start with men from childhood to inculcate the respect towards women, to inculcate the good behavioral tendencies towards women, to be able to respect women. You know, what happens in men is that that they already have a setup where they are seeing that males are superior, and then their masculinity, when they become aware of it, by the time they can come of age, their masculinity becomes enhanced in a way because they feel superior by strength over a woman. Already they have been seeing from childhood that women in their families are inferior in a way to their male counterparts, and that when the man becomes older, the guy becomes younger, adolescent, a teen, a puberty age, they also become physically stronger, and they start their masculinity, or their sense of masculinity becomes enhanced. So they need to be made aware of what exactly masculinity in today's time means. And unlike in women, where women like to be approached individually, like talking to them personally, empathizing with them about their stories, sharing experiences, men like to be, apparently I'm speaking this from a case study based out of India itself, that men like to be approached in groups. That, for example, there are young male kids who are in a team of a certain sport, maybe swimming or cricket, hockey, whatever, and you could intervene in that group. You could set examples in that group. You could engage them as a group, as a whole, so that they see each other and they feel more motivated towards applying those changes that they have been suggested. Sorry, my throat is getting dry. And do activities which help them to reflect upon themselves, their behaviors, and their ideals of what masculinity is and what it should be as presented to them by the intervention groups that they're working with. So that is how, first of all, you raise your male child right. Raise them to be able to respect women. Raise them to respect not just their mothers and their sisters, but also other women. Raise them to basically be an empathetic, a kind man towards women, to not just, protect women in times or be a gentleman, a chivalrous man, but to also be a good man by nature, that so that you do not take advantage of any woman who might come in life in the future to yours. And the other way is to approach them in groups when they are almost approaching adulthood or in their adolescence. So around that time you can do this intervention where you approach them in groups, and you set examples in groups, and you do activities of sorts which help them reflect and understand what masculinity in today's age is all about, since we are not in the age of hunters and gatherers or in the ice age anymore. So that is something which we could do. And I'm just checking my notes what if I missed anything. I know this was a long one. I don't know if this is going to be cut and into two, this video, but I hope you learned something out of this. My only hope was my motivation was to raise awareness about this topic because of the ongoing scenario. Because if I don't talk about it now, if I wait for another 10 days, the time will have already moved on. The media, the news will have already moved on to something new. There will be too many distractions. Like we all know that our conventional news system is not the most reliable anymore. So I thought that I should do it as soon as possible, and I hope that you realized some things about the whole scenario and realized that we need to keep talking about this. We need to keep talking about this unashamedly. We need to keep the fire on, the topic going, the talk going. That is the only way to achieve change of any form. Every revolution that has come around started from an idea which was discussed and talked and discussed some more and planned and executed eventually. And right now, to make the lives of our lives, the lives of I'm speaking to the males, your sisters, your mothers, your wives, your spouses, your girlfriends, your friends, and our coming generation of females safer. This is the only way to keep the talk going, to not let the topic slide and be forgotten, to demand this woman's safety to also be a part of the agenda when political leaders come around asking for votes, and ensuring that they do go through their promises, unlike we have seen so far. So I'm in this fight. I will keep this fight going, because no woman deserves this, no man deserves sexual brutalization like this. And I hope that I don't know if you enjoyed this video or not, but I really hope that you learned something out of it, and I hope I have motivated you enough to get talking and to keep the fight on. Please subscribe to my channel. Please like this video if you liked it, and please share this video if you think that this video is worth sharing and talking about. Please do that. Thank you so much. Let's keep the fight going. I hope you will be with me in this, because I am there already. Thank you for your attention, your time. Much love to you all for taking the time out to just watch this video. I will see you all. Bye bye. I'll see you all very soon.